Hey, what's up you guys? I'm Sara Lubratt, and today's video I'm actually going to be brainstorming for my current stories as well as some new stories while on a hike and sitting by a mountain lake. I really hope that you guys enjoy this writing vlog. If you do, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a big thumbs up, and without further ado, let's get into it. I got off of work not too long ago, but now I'm going for a hike and putting on my hiking socks. But I think I'm gonna have to bring a notebook on my hike with me today because I'm going to a mountain lake, and I've had some really interesting book ideas and story ideas for Project DE, which is the book that I'm currently working on. And I just feel like I've had a lot of ideas and I've been very creative today, even though I haven't like actively been creative. I feel like my mind has just been running, and so I'm gonna bring a notebook with me so that on my hike I can sit down and do some brainstorming and kind of just like think through what my thought process has been and kind of just see where that takes me today, because I'm not entirely sure what my goal is with that other than just trying to be creative and trying to get ideas out of my brain and onto a page of some sort. And I just like have so many thoughts that I am really looking forward to being outside and walking and kind of having time to think through them and then getting to sit down and really work through them. So that's my goal for today, and I guess without further ado, let's head out. It is now 1.8 miles later, and I am up at the lake. Blood's Lake is behind me here, and I basically wanted to do a hike today, but I also wanted to spend some time brainstorming, and so I'm going to be brainstorming for a bunch of things, including my stories and my books, while I'm up here. But I'm also going to have a snack. Today, for some reason, I've had such a strong urge to work on 4 books, and only 2 of them I've started, and 2 of them I've come up with in the past like 2 days. I've also never filmed outside before, so hopefully this is not that bad. I've never filmed in nature before. I have filmed outside when I did my Everything and Nothing About DE video. I hope you guys can hear me, but within the past 2 days I've come up with 2 ideas for brand new sci-fi stories, and I don't know how to balance that on top of what I'm currently working on, which is primarily draft 4 of my high fantasy project that I call Project DE. And I have a sci-fi started that I did the first 50,000 words of in March, but now I have these 2 brand new ideas, and working on 4 books in a year would be a lot. Working on 4 at one time would be absolutely insane for me. Some people can do that just fine, but that is not currently something that I can do or necessarily want to do. So I want to take some time while I'm up here to write down. I don't know if that was a bee or a fly, but I got stung in my last writing vlog. It was like last weekend, so that was not a good time. So now I flinch every time there's a bee or a buzzing noise. But basically I just want to take some time to sit here and work on brainstorming those 2 sci-fis and kind of just jotting out whatever ideas come to my brain without writing them on a computer, because I do think that there's something much more thoughtful and meditative about writing ideas down on paper instead of on my computer. I don't always do it, but I'm in nature. Now is the perfect time to, because I don't have my computer with me, and yes, I could write stuff on my phone, but like, it kind of defeats the point. That's what I'm going to start with, is working on brainstorming for a couple of those ideas while eating a snack, and then I'll talk to you guys again. There are definitely more people up here now, but I just finished brainstorming for draft 4 of DE. I had some ideas on how to make the story more interesting in draft 4 because it still needs some help. And I went ahead and wrote down those ideas, and I think it's in scenes that I will be editing somewhat soonish, which is exciting, so that I can actually work on improving draft 4 and the story of draft 4 in the next couple of weeks. But I just moved to a different spot, and now I want to do some brainstorming for my sci-fi that I call CBH. It's the one that I started writing in March, and it also got to a point where it's going to need some help, but I think I've come up with some ideas on how to make the story more interesting, which is what I want to work on now. I was up at the lake for about an hour, but I just decided that it was probably a good idea if I start heading back down, just because it is almost a 2-mile walk, and it's currently like 5:45, so I should probably start heading back. I did some brainstorming for DE, I did some brainstorming for CBH, and I wanted to start walking back now so that I could start thinking about a Pinterest picture I saw yesterday, because much like the way DE started, I saw a picture on Pinterest last night that inspired a character for a new fantasy story, and I don't know anything about her, and I don't know like what this story is going to be. I just saw this picture and came up with just the thought that like, okay, this is a character whose story needs to be told, and so I want to think more about her on my way down and just kind of see what I can come up with as far as maybe a plot goes, or who she is, or what her inspirations are, and kind of just start thinking about her as a character, because I know I'm on draft 4 of DE and I want to see DE through, but just seeing that picture made me really excited to start a new fantasy book. So I guess we're just gonna think about that on the way down. Okay, I just came up with like a line of a poem that could describe this character, or at least kind of like lore or like something around this character. So I definitely need to write that down before I forget it. But I love it when there's song lyrics or poetry within novels and larger stories, because I think it's such an interesting way to storytell and get such a concise feeling done in such a short period of time that I like playing around with that idea. I have a couple of poems in DE, but I need to write down this concept for this new theoretical fantasy project. So far on my walk down, I've been recording voice notes as I've been going, because I don't want to stop and like have to like look down and type on my phone. So I've just been like holding it and speaking into it, which has been working pretty well. I will have to go back and type them up later, but right now that note working has been working. Right before I sat down, I came up with a potential idea for a plot. It's not very specific. It is very overarching and there's no subplots to it yet, but I'm like, okay, could be the plot, or at least how you get to the end, whether or not that's like the legitimate plot or if that's a subplot, but it gave me a little bit of insight on who this character could be, and I'm very excited about the prospect. Part of why I wanted to think about this character on my way down from this hike is that I do think that this character lives in the mountains. I think that she probably lives in taller mountains than I'm currently in, because I think I'm currently at about 7,000 feet, and she probably lives in like the 10 to 11 range, if not like 13 or 14, but I think that she would live far above the tree line. I'm kind of thinking now about what might have happened previously in this character's life that led them to where they are currently living, and if it was a choice or not a choice, and kind of trying to come up with something that might have happened in her past that would give me clues to who this character is. I just came up for a potential motivation for one side of a conflict. I can't tell if that's something that's like laying down or if that's a log. It's really far away. think that's just a log. It wasn't dark enough to be a moose, but I was kind of wondering if it was because I haven't seen a moose while I've lived out here yet. I can't remember if it was Brandon Sanderson or Margaret Atwood who said something about how they come up with the world first and the plot, and then they try to see who within that would be affected the most, to see who would be most effective to have as main characters, or the storytellers basically. And that's an interesting concept. That's kind of what I'm struggling with right now, because I don't think that this character that I came up with necessarily needs to have a POV. That sunbeam is strong. But basically, even though I think that this character is really integral to the story, and the whole story is because I came up with her first, or that I was inspired by this picture of her on Pinterest, I'm not sure that she needs a perspective. But then that also brings up the question, well, how many characters will have perspectives? And like, we all know that I'm writing DE, which has 3 points of view. LRF had 1, CBH had 2 at the end, but it started with 3. So I like writing multi-POVs, but I don't know which characters in this world would benefit most from having their story told. I feel like there's a little bit of fall colors coming in here. Or it could just be because it was a really dry year. And I'm back to the parking lot. Okay, I thought I was at 7,000 feet. Apparently I was in the 9,000s, which makes me feel way better about how out of breath I was. But the air quality is also super bad today, and so I was trying not to be too hard on myself. But the fact that I went up to 9,692 feet makes me feel really good. That's wild, but yeah, I'm a little out of breath. So I guess this character would probably live closer to 13 or 14,000 square feet if I was at 9. There's people walking behind my car. If I was at 9 or almost 10 today. While I'm doing the 45-minute drive back to my apartment, I am going to listen to some of my writing playlists and see what other ideas I come up with while I'm driving, and I will update you guys when I get back to my apartment. I am now back in my apartment, and the drive went well. I did start a new playlist for this new fantasy idea based on songs that I was listening to from other playlists that I have, which was cool. And I had one that gave me goosebumps with like how much it clicked with this new story. So that was fun. But it was also when I was going around like a super sharp turn coming down from the mountains, and that was a little freaky, but I got back just fine. Also on my drive down, I was wondering about plotting, because as you guys probably know, I am not a plotter, I'm a pantser. And I was wondering how much of this fantasy story I would in theory need to come up with before I start writing it. Because when I started writing CBH in March, I had thought about this story for so long that I kind of knew what was going to happen. Even though I never officially plotted, I knew the gist, and so it wasn't that hard for me to write. But I also know that I write the first draft as like a discovery draft, and I like tell myself the story, and then when I get to draft two is so much better because I'm adding things that I was realizing during draft 1 or after draft 1 was done being written. And then that got me wondering if, for the plotters out there, if you guys basically treat your outline like the first draft, so that when you actually get to your first draft, it's more substantial, like a pantser's second draft. If you're a plotter and that sounds at all legitimate, please let me know down in the comments below. Also, pantsers, if you agree with me, let me know. But I thought that was like an epiphany, honestly. But I was wondering about that because it's currently September, but October is coming up, and then right around the corner after October is November, aka NaNoWriMo, and I want to work on something new during that month, but I don't know what I want to work on yet, which is kind of why I wanted to spend time thinking about some of the new story ideas that I've had to see if I can flesh out any of them enough or start that process so that by the time October gets here, aka Preptober, and then November with NaNoWriMo, that I have something that's like ready to be written. And I wouldn't say that there's like a standout one yet that's like an automatic yes, I'm doing this for NaNoWriMo, but it also got me thinking about NaNoWriMo a little bit and starting to try and think about what I might want to work on during November. If any of you guys know what you're working on yet and you want to share it with me, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I had a really fun time doing this writing vlog today and kind of getting to talk about how
my thoughts were forming with these basically 3 new stories, the 2 sci-fis and the fantasy. One of the sci-fis might actually get absorbed into CBH, which is the sci-fi that I worked on in March, because that could actually just amplify the current story more, which would be fantastic. And the other one I didn't do as much brainstorming for as I was expecting to, but then I got way further with this glimpse of a fantasy idea than I thought I was going to, and I made breakthroughs in CBH and DE. So like this went way better than I could have hoped for. I did want to mention that I have done one higher mountain lake that was at 9,900 square feet, and it was included in this writing vlog. And going to visit mountain lakes have been one of my favorite things to hike to while I've been living out here. And today was cool. It wasn't my favorite one that I've done, but that might also have been affected by the air quality. But I've been to ones that are larger and have better views and are more like in the side of a mountain where there's like more mountain above it that have been really cool. If you guys haven't seen the writing vlogs that is a part of, I did decide to go ahead and make a new playlist called My Adventure Writing Vlogs, which are basically the writing vlogs that I've done while I've been out here so far, where it's writing, but it's also hiking, and it just kind of bounces back between the two. If you want to check that out, I will leave that linked down in the description box below, because I wanted to make the delineation for myself as well, because I'm sure that I will have writing vlogs that are not as adventure-y. So I wanted to make sure that it was really easy for myself and you guys to find the more adventure-heavy vlogs. So I guess with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and this style of video, because this is kind of unlike anything I've done so far before, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a big thumbs up, because that really supports my channel by telling the YouTube algorithm that you liked my video and that someone else might too. If this is the first video that you are seeing from me and you want to see more like it or more similar writing content, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button, because I post videos every single week about the writing process and eventually my path to publication. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Sara Lubratt, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.